What is on your mind that may need advice on? Boyfriend is oblivious to his best friend trying to date him. We are in our early 20s. I am female, and my boyfriend's best friend is male. TLDR, boyfriend's best friend is blatantly hitting on him and it has begun to bother me, but my boyfriend insists his friend is straight and thus refuses to do anything about it. My boyfriend and I have been together for a couple years now, and we are very happy. He has been friends with his best friend for a few years before he met me, and they have a very close relationship which I was initially very supportive of. However, from observing over the years I have realized there is more to the relationship than I initially believed. I know it is wrong to assume people's sexuality, but I am almost 100% sure his best friend is attracted to men, or at the very least, my boyfriend. This wouldn't be a problem normally, except he has begun to blatantly disrespect my relationship and overstep boundaries. He has always been fairly cold to me, even though I went out of my way to form a friendship with him. However, recently, he has been going overboard. When my boyfriend and I schedule time together, which is rare due to our busy schedules, his best friend frequently asks him to cancel and do something with him instead. He is very physically affectionate with my boyfriend, which my boyfriend does not reciprocate, and uses pet names for him which are normally reserved for a relationship. He also makes frequent jokes about being gay, my boyfriend being attractive, how my boyfriend should try dating a guy instead of me since women are difficult, etc. If my boyfriend and I argue about anything, he pushes for us to break up. He has pointed out before that he is more of a constant in my boyfriend's life than I am. He is very possessive over my boyfriend, and frequently makes comments to me about how much time they used to spend together / how close they were in a very passive-aggressive manner. I consistently get the impression that he accuses me of stealing away my boyfriend. Now that our relationship has progressed further and we are getting serious, his friend has gotten worse as my boyfriend directs most of his attention to me. He is borderline hostile to me and outwardly hits on my boyfriend in a smug manner, and my boyfriend allows it because he insists his friend is straight. He asked my boyfriend to schedule his semester around his classes instead of mine, which is obnoxious. He asks him to leave dates early, invites him over for dates to watch shows, splits costs with him for things my boyfriend is going to buy so they have to be together to use them, textbooks, games, etc. I just feel so incredibly disrespected. I am not a jealous or vindictive person. I truly wanted to be friends with his best friend, and I had no negative opinions of him until he made his behavior clear once he realized I am not a temporary thing. I do not feel threatened. My partner has never shown signs of wanting to be with anyone else and is assuredly straight. My boyfriend was single his whole life until he met me and I intend to stay. I am at my wit's end. I don't know what to do about his best friend. If it doesn't bother my boyfriend I feel like I should leave it alone. But I feel like it has crossed a line and I need my boyfriend to realize what I, and some of his friends, have noticed. I have no issue with them remaining friends as long as his friend accepts that's all they'll ever be. It makes me feel crazy to be jealous of a man. Am I going insane and should I just keep this to myself, or is there anything I should do? My brother claims my wife have hit on his wife because my wife came out as bisexual. I've been married for a little over 3 years, and my family has never liked my wife. They're religious, and are very close-minded to anything and everything outside of their beliefs. My wife and I are both the black sheep members of our families. Right from the start, my family shut out my wife. She had to claw her way into conversations, would always be left out of sister get-togethers, and generally passed over because she didn't fit the image that they wanted. I've always known that my wife was bi. It was never an issue. We would occasionally joke, in the confines of our own home, the people we would go gay or lesbian for, I'm straight. Also, just to clarify before I continue, my wife is a very compassionate person. When she feels bad for someone, she'll be assuring and affectionate. Not over the top, but a close friends kind of way. She respects boundaries and relationships. My brother's wife had similar issues when coming into the family. She didn't fit the image, but over time she was worn down and adjusted everything about herself to fit in. My brother doesn't defend her against anything. He always thinks that if the direct family has an idea, that he needs to follow through on it, including comments against his wife. I always encouraged my wife to be herself, and not change for anyone. I love her the way she is. Now, because both my wife and my brothers had similar experiences in trying to get into the family, my wife felt compassionate and reached out to her. For a while things were good. They were able to talk openly about their struggles with the family and help each other. About a week ago, everything changed. For context, my wife hadn't told anyone in the family about her being bisexual for fear of ridicule and judgment on a spiritual level. My wife and my brothers were hanging out together one evening to watch a TV show when my brother's wife asked my wife if she was bi. Since they had a good relationship, and disclosed a lot of feelings and struggles. She told her the truth. For a week, nothing became of it. Yesterday, my brother called me up saying that we needed to talk. We got together, and that's when he accused my wife of hitting on his. Here's something that I know. My wife has never treated my brother's wife differently than anyone else. I think that because my wife let someone in, confident it wouldn't change anything, on her sexual orientation, that my brother and his wife are now questioning all of her motives and actions for the entire time we've been together. But to go so far as to say that my wife was hitting on my brother's wife is too far. Also, my brother's wife didn't say anything afterwards. She made everything seem fine. If she had an issue or thought something that serious, she should have gone directly to my wife, not sent her guard dog after me for it. As of yesterday, we've cut them out of our lives. There has been 1,000 issues that has led us to cutting them out. But this was the final straw. I do want to know what you think. Did I handle it well? Is there something we could do differently? How do we move on? We're both feeling betrayed. I called my father out when he posted about my change of name. Was this unreasonable? I am 16 and female. My bio dad is William Smith the 10th. That name is fake, but he is the 10th in a row in his family to have the real name, and his male cousins are also William Smith X. And if it looks like a branch of the family or just having girls, then one is usually Wilhelmina. Both my mom and William told me that they agreed that if I was a boy I'd be William the 11th, but if I was a girl I'd be Rosalie, after my great-grandma on mom's side, because mom hated the name Wilhelmina. But William filled out the certificate himself and named me Wilhelmina Rosalie Smith, saying mom would come around. I've always hated my name, and preferred my middle name. When I got to secondary school I asked people in my class and my teachers to call me Rosalie because I liked it way more than Wilhelmina. William skipped out on me and mom when I was only a few months old, and gave mom full custody. I've seen him a few times a year since then, but not much, and he's told me to my face that he never wanted to be a dad. When I was 5 mom met my stepdad. When he and mom got married, he asked if I wanted him to adopt me, and I said yes, so he and mom sorted that out with William. They got married a few years ago. When I was 12, mom decided to take his surname, Wilson. She asked how I felt about it and I didn't mind, because it's not like we'd ever shared a surname anyway. I'd always been a Smith while mom always had her maiden name, but after she changed it I realized that I wanted to be a Wilson, too, because I considered my mom and stepdad to be my parents more than William. I asked them if I could change my name, too, from Wilhelmina Rosalie Smith to Rosalie Wilson. They told me to think about it because it's my name so it's my choice. But also I was 12 at the time so they couldn't just say yes. A few months later I, now 13, saw William. I told him I was considering the name change, and he flipped his crap, yelled at me, mom, and dad saying they were trying to turn me against him and I was breaking hundreds of years of tradition before storming out. When he left I basically said yeah, I really don't want to be named after him and they sort of had to go with it after that. I was 13 so I couldn't do most of it, but they helped me with paperwork. This crap started up again yesterday when I found William on Facebook. I've only just made the account so I decided to send him a friend request. He accepted, then posted that he was just contacted by Rosalie Wilson and he can't believe that's his kid, and that I never asked him to change it. I got annoyed and responded that maybe if he had actually been a parent and not a narcissistic prick then I'd have asked his permission, and I unfriended him. I've gotten a mixed response, with most people saying I should apologize to William. Mom and dad are on my side, but say that I should probably take the comment down. Anyway, to avoid further bullcrap, am I wrong in this? Dear husband wants to sell condo and move to the suburbs. Okay, I'm a city girl through and through. I'm 6 weeks pregnant and my husband is talking crap about leaving the city to live to the suburbs. Just why? I'm sorry but I am not with the ideology that children cannot be raised in the city. Why would we leave? So we can shovel our own snow in the winter? So we can go get our own groceries? So we have to own cars and deal with pickup and drop-off lanes? Like why? I love our condo. We have an amazing view of the river, great amenities, and we don't have to do our laundry or go far for dry cleaning, all done by services right in our lobby. Our butcher knows what cuts of meat we like. We get fresh baked bread and bagels from our local bakery. In the burbs we would buy prepackaged bread. Scared face. Okay, we don't have our own yard, but our building has a rooftop park with 3 pools. One for infants, one for kids and one for everyone else, plus a full-on gym. We have concierge and security. We don't have to worry if we are safe. So again, why would we leave? Upgrade? Okay. But leave? Hell no, we have a 3-bedroom 2-bath and have been here for almost 4 years. He wants to move 2 hours away to nothingness but tree-lined streets and driveways, and I don't want this. This is not what I dreamed for our growing family. I imagined us as a city family where when it snowed we would sit in front of the window in the living room and watch, like we did last winter and the one before that. All my husband says is that a city is too dangerous for children, more dangerous than living in the middle of nowhere, where your home can be invaded and there is justice. I'm feeling 10,000 emotions right now and calm is not one of them. I low-key want to physically just kick him out of the bed for even suggesting this. I wouldn't do that, but in my mind, thoughtful face, I just am not seeing the benefits of moving to the burbs. Am I overreacting? Update. So this morning, I was quiet as was he, but we both agreed to meet a couple people we are friends with for brunch. So we get dressed and go. Dear husband brings up selling the condo. I stay quiet and boom, his bestie asks him if he's crazy. At this point I'm still staying quiet because in all honesty I want to know too. It really is the craziest idea he has come up with. He, dear husband, states how he has all these plans of things he'd like us as a family to do together in this suburb of his imagination. So dear husband's bestie then asks, who are you going to socialize with that far out? He says, speaking of your social circle, we are all here, your job is here. And so is your wife's. Are you going to transfer to another office? Bestie asks. Dear husband says no. Bestie says, so you're increasing your commute to engage in a fantasy that you will be too tired to bring to fruition? At this point hubby looks at me. I give him a look to let him know I want him to answer these questions. I intercede and tell him I know the schools where he wants us to go are great. But are we sure they will be great for our child? Secondly, we have some of the best schools here, private, public and charter. Not to mention before we even get to school, what are we going to do about daycare? He says we can afford daycare. I said yes, but where, in the suburb or the city? I said either way, who's taking him or her? He assumes I would, which would mean I have to wake up God only knows how much earlier because we have to get the child to daycare before I go to work, also here in the city. Long story short, his bestie completely got him seeing things from a realistic point of view. I told him we can do all the things that are offered upstate like sledding in the winter, apple picking etc. But I think we should stay in the city and he agreed. I told him I was glad his bestie brought up all that stuff. He said he was glad too because he thought we were gonna have a smackdown argument, all because he didn't think it all through. I told him I was sorry for being so quiet, but I really didn't know how to say what I felt without overreacting. I feel like Providence stepped in and handled it for me. So we are happy in our apartment, consider an upgrade whenever baby number 2 comes along. But number 1 is still on the right now. Why should I let my ex see our son? Should I even? When I was 20, I got pregnant. The father was my boyfriend of 3 years. He said he was excited and wanted this, but quickly began expressing doubts, and when I was around 8 months pregnant he said it was too much for him and he didn't want this. He left, and was never put on the birth certificate. The next time I saw my ex was when our son was 3, nearly 4. He came to my place and told me he'd gotten a flat 10 minutes from my house because he realized he screwed up and wanted to be a dad to our son. I said I needed to know he'd put in the effort, and arranged for him to meet me every 2 weeks for 2 months to discuss our son. Then after 2 months I began bringing our son. My lawyer recommended 6 to 12 months of supervised visitation before putting his name on the birth certificate and agreeing on custody. 6 months after my ex started seeing our son he sent me a text saying he couldn't do this, and never showed up again. This really upset our son, who knew my ex was his dad and had been told by my ex that he'd be getting custody, and the two of them had really started to bond. And his dad just disappearing gave him abandonment issues. For a month after that he was scared to go to preschool in case I never picked him up, and if my boyfriend spent the night at his place my son would worry he wouldn't come back, and we ended up having to get him into therapy. So now my son is 9 and my ex has messaged me. He's back in town and he'll be taking over the family business, so he's going to be here for the foreseeable future. I am still in touch with my ex's mother, who has told him my husband and I got married recently, last November, and my husband has adopted our son, and that we have a daughter, 2 years old. He's contacted me to say that he would like to be in our son's life. He said his wife got pregnant around the time he started seeing our son again. They had a daughter, and he did the same thing again as he did to our son, but he only disappeared for 2 months before the birth this time. But this time his wife said some harsher words than I did and basically forced him to grow up and step up, both for his daughter and his son. He's been a dad every day to his daughter for nearly 5 years now, so now he wants to try again with his son. I've said no. He has no legal right to see our son and historically, he's not going to stick to regular visits. My husband and I are in agreement on this, however my ex has involved all 3 sets of grandparents, including my boyfriend's parents, and they all feel he should be allowed to see his son and say we're cruel for keeping them apart. We are not making any decisions based on the responses here, and we are firm on not letting my ex see him, but my husband's parents, of all people, siding with my ex-boyfriend, has really thrown us off. So this is more about wanting a new perspective than anything, to be honest. What do you all think? Mom is sad that I may not be returning home for the holiday. I've told this story before, but deleted it because I was kind of embarrassed. Basically, the situation with my family is complex. 2 years ago, I moved away from my family to attend grad school about 1,300 miles away. Since then, my relationship with them has deteriorated. My mom is highly dependent on me and others because she's chronically ill and disabled. She uses a walker and wheelchair and cannot drive on her own. Ever since I moved away, which she didn't want, she has increasingly gotten combative over my choices, especially those related to my boyfriend of 2 years. In the beginning, she would accuse me of not loving the family and saying that I could not trust my boyfriend, the most stable person in my life. My dad is borderline verbally abusive and I don't really talk to him unless my mom asks. In my opinion, he is mentally unstable and is prone to public and private yelling fits. One of my most distinct memories of him is when he got angry over the TV, broke our metal trash can, and threatened to divorce my mom. He's also a borderline hoarder and our house is filled with mice and roaches. Lately, my parents have been having trouble paying their bills. My mom frequently calls me to complain about how she's stressed. I try to give her advice about how to possibly fix things, but she doesn't really listen. Today she called me about coming home for the holidays and I sort of dodged her question, saying that I might need to do lab work over the winter, which is true. I told her she also needed to work on her financial situation before we looked into plane tickets plus boarding for my dog. She got a tiny bit indignant and said that it would mean a lot to her if she got to see me before something happened to her. That made me feel guilty because her health has been poor lately. I just don't know how to approach this situation at all. I feel like I'm being bratty, but going back home has always been mentally hard for me and I hate it, given the circumstances. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories delivered to you. Thanks for listening. See you later.